Malta relaxes most remaining COVID-19 restrictions. Englishman has died after his yacht is crushed against the Marsaxlokk breakwater, and the bill of indictment against the alleged Slima double murders is filed at the 11th hour. All this and more on Lovin Daily. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Lovin Daily. My name is Yannick. With me is Tim Diacono. We've got a jam-packed episode for you today, including an interview with ADPD candidate and Assistant Secretary General Sandra Gauci. So stay tuned for that. On to our first story, the story of the day. Tim, you want to introduce it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the big story is that most of Malta's remaining COVID-19 restrictions, or a large chunk of them, will be removed as of 2nd May. And the restrictions are as following. There'll be no more restrictions or limits in terms of weddings and events, so no masks, no vaccine certificates, and there'll be no more requirement for travellers to present a passenger locator form when travelling to Malta. It was, in my opinion, one of the most ridiculous restrictions that was introduced throughout the pandemic. No quarantine for any contacts of COVID-19 cases. So if someone in your household tests positive, you only need to spend a single day in quarantine. There is still a 7-day quarantine for positive cases with a rapid test to be released early. Mandatory masks will be removed from shops, supermarkets, stores, shopping malls, practically everywhere except for flights, hospitals and clinics. Health Minister Chris Fenn delivered the press conference today explaining the government strategy that the virus is still around. However, it's quite clear from the numbers that hospitalizations have remained stable and that the direction is very clearly towards one of personal responsibility and personal assessment of risk. Everyone knows the rules. The authorities have issued 3, if not, and in some cases even 4 vaccine doses, and now it's time for life to get back to normal without the government intervening and deciding how we live our lives or not. Remember, it has been over 2 years throughout the pandemic, and it really is obviously the way to go. No more living in restrictions.
Yeah, I mean, like Deputy Prime Minister said, it's all about personal responsibility now. As with any other illness, if you're sick, if you're possibly contagious, you take the necessary measures, but there's no point in restricting everyone's movements and behaviors. On to our next story, a tragic story in which a man has died after the yacht he was living on was cut off from its berth in Marsaxlokk and dragged out to sea, where it collided with the Marsaxlokk breakwater. The man, a 70-year-old Englishman, lived on his yacht, which was displaced as a result of the very strong winds that have battered the island over the past couple of days. The AFM and members of the Civil Protection Department were called in to the scene, and they assisted in a search for the man, whose body was recovered about 6 in the morning near Del Limara. A video that Lovin Malta published on Thursday showed a yacht in quite a bit of difficulty actually being battered by the waves. At this point, it isn't clear whether this is the same incident. One can only imagine how horrible it must have been being on that boat, especially as it was being flung from one side to the next. Our thoughts at this point are with the man's family and friends. An inquiry is ongoing, and hopefully we'll find out a bit more about the case in due course.
An absolutely tragic story, and more details I'm sure will be released in the coming days. The Attorney General has filed a bill of indictment against Daniel Muka, one of the main suspects in the double murder of Christian Pandolfino and Ivo Maciejowski back in the summer of 2020. So this was a murder that had shocked the country, where this couple was just opened the door and found people ready to kill them, and they did. And as Maltese justice is notoriously slow, they haven't even they're not on trial yet at all. There's no date set for it, and in fact, and they hadn't even been confirmed to be put on trial. So this is what the bill of indictment is about. It's a confirmation by the Attorney General that the state intends to prosecute them. Without it, there's a 20-month window in which this bill of indictment must be issued, after which any suspect who is charged with any crime have to be released on bail for issues of human rights, which makes perfect sense. There were concerns that the 20-hour window was drawing to a close for Daniel Muka and also for Viktor Targomansky, who was arrested along with him, and shortly after, that the AG would delays would have resulted in someone who is reasonably suspected of being a heinous killer would have been released onto the streets. However, this bill of indictment was issued, which means that a trial against him will take place. No date has been set yet.
Yeah, it's good that the bill of indictment has been published, but one must question, as you said, why it is that this has to happen at the last moment every time. One would hope that there's a legal reason for this, but sadly, one suspects that the reason is just a lack of organization. But anyway, hopefully we'll have justice in this case, which is very shocking. I mean, no one expects to open the door, as you said, and find himself being murdered. Our next story, Ryan Schembri, the former one of the former owners of Moore Supermarkets chain, who fled the island in 2014, leaving behind him a trail of debts estimated to be in the region of 40 million euro, has been arrested in Scotland. He was arrested on the strength of a European arrest warrant issued by Maltese authorities. The police are believed to be preparing charges related to fraud and money laundering. He had originally fled, as we said, in 2014. He fled to Dubai before eventually moving to London and later to Scotland. Maltese police were apparently in Scotland over the last couple of days to carry out, to assist in his arrest. Schembri, it is worth noting, is a cousin of former OPM Chief of Staff Keith Schembri. So as we said, he was the owner of the supermarkets chain, which many people had invested money in, and eventually just fled the island when he was apparently threatened over these unpaid debts. The story is also linked to the murder of lawyer Carmer Kirkhope in 2015. Kirkhope was in fact one of these investors in the supermarket chain. He had invested quite a bit of money, and had a contract in fact with Schembri as well as Adrian Ajus for this loan. He was murdered in 2015 in relation to these unpaid debts. Adrian Ajus was arrested last year and he has since been charged with Kirkhope's murder. We'll see. Schembri is expected in Malta later today, so we'll understand more about the case once proceedings are underway.
Yeah, it's quite incredible how he had managed to spend around 8 years on the run in a world which is so digitally connected, and where police forces from around the world coordinate with each other so regularly. Yet this man managed to elude everyone and justice for the past 8 years. And apparently, according to the reports, it was by mere chance that he was arrested. It was because he was speeding, and the police in Scotland found out, or took him in, and then one thing led to another. His identity was revealed, and the Maltese police were informed. So, by mere chance, he could still be evading justice. Finally, one TV host called Stania Navarra has given some advice to PN Deputy Leader David Ajus to set up an account on OnlyFans. Now, this was a reference to David Ajus's infamous comments recently, where he said that PN supporters should be more active and they should be liking our Facebook posts more. They should be liking Bernard Gregg's posts. PN supporters who don't press like, who don't press like aren't showing the moral fiber or the strength. Anyway, it was quite a bit of reaction to it. And Stania Navarra chimed in yesterday saying that, look, you should set up an account on OnlyFans and you'll have as many likes as you want. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, obviously. Then come back in a week and tell me whether I was right. Maybe you can even earn some money for the PN that way. Yeah. choice advice.
Quite a silly comment about the Facebook likes, I think, in the sense that you can't really blame people for not engaging. That's your job, I suppose, to get them to engage.
And it also makes it seem. It also, to be honest, it also shows that how fake and how manipulated some of the Facebook engagement is, right? It's always been the case, but when you hear that this is actually part of the strategy and that like you're encouraging them to share the post, and it's okay, they're being shared not because the people are actually liking them, but because they're being encouraged by the upper echelons of the party to like them and share them.
Exactly. So that's it from us. Stay tuned. We're going to cut to a short break, and then we're going to have our interview with Sandra Gauci.
Welcome back to Lovin Daily. With me now is Sandra Gauci, ADPD candidate. Hi Sandra, thank you for being here today. So, Sandra, the election was around a month ago. You did pretty well for considering it was your first election. You were contesting with a third party.
Yes.
After the election, Carmel Cacapardo, the current leader, said that he intends to step down as leader.
Mm-hmm.
And we're very clear. Are you interested in the leadership?
Let's say it's in the cards. Let's keep it like that. But
You are interested then?
yes. So let's see what comes up along the way. But it's a process. It's something which needs to be discussed. But it's something which yes, I would like to.
Mm-hmm. So AD has been around since the late 1980s. They've had quite a few leaders over the years, but the party has never made any significant gains at elections.
Mm-hmm.
What do you plan to change if you become leader?
Well, first of all, we need to be more present, not only on media, but also with the people. I think that people need to get to know us more. Having direct contact with the people can help. For example, Melissa Begley got that amount of votes because she's always there doing her cleanups, and so people know her. And that is something which needs to be pushed. The people need to get to know us. It's not like, Sandra Gauci Dimini, who's she? No, we need to make people know us. Social media is helping us, but we also need to be on TV. We need to be invited. It's not like the television stations are just a monopoly or a duopoly of the two main parties. We are there, we have a voice. People have given us their vote. We have 4,747 people who trust us. And I think we deserve airtime even on national TV.
Do you think ADPD should set up its own casino?
I think a casino, it's, even when you look at the casini of PN and PL, people aren't that, it's not the place to be. More sort of headquarters, which people can, even we can meet other people. When I have somebody who's interested in joining up, I can't meet him in an office because we don't have one, so we're outside there, a coffee shop or somewhere in the dark. But yes, I think we need some form of headquarters, but that requires money, which hopefully through donations, you can help us with that.
So, during the last election, 20,000 people had previously voted for PL and PN in 2017 didn't vote for them. They abstained from voting. Why didn't these people vote for ADPD, in your opinion?
Maybe because they just saw it as a one-directional thing. That is, I want to send a message to my party, which is either Labour or PN. They didn't just think, okay, I will switch to AD. No, they just wanted to not vote, because that's the way they thought they were going to send a message to their to Labour or to PN. Sadly, probably we need to be to become a valid choice for these people who didn't vote for us, who chose to abstain. We need to work more so that we become a choice and which people believe in and they trust us. It's not like a protest vote. No, I trust AD because they have these, they're tackling these issues, they have guts. So yes, I trust them. It's not like to protest.
And what issues though? I mean, like AD was, it's known mostly for putting the environment on the agenda a while ago, being the Green Party, pro-environment. However, nowadays, both PN and PL have been coming up with these green initiatives, talking a big game about the environment. Now Labour is saying we're going to spend 700 million euro on green projects over the next 7 years. So what makes AD relevant in this day and age?
The problem is that the main parties, even though they have the money, they talk. You said the magic word. They talk about them. They don't actually do the action. I mean, Labour is in government. They talk about putting the environment in the first place, but then you have some, for example, the fuel station in Marsa Scala, which I read just right now, is going to double in its size, or the projects in Sannat with Portelli. And then you realize that it's just that, talk. Nothing more, nothing less.
They're going to spend the 700 million.
God knows what. What will they do? Another tarmac park like in Mosta? They spend them, but it's far from being a green lung in Mosta, from what the photos I have seen. So they don't even have a clue on how green is to be applied.
So a few years ago, there was a bit of infighting within ADPD about abortion. There was Mina Tolo had a candidate had come out very strongly in favour of it, and Arnold Cassola ended up quitting the party and going independent. Is this still an issue within the party, or is ADPD now officially a pro-choice party?
Well, first of all, when this event happened, I wasn't there, so because I've been here around a year and a bit more. So, as you can see, even from our manifesto for the elections, we nowadays abortion for us as a party is no longer something which creates any infighting between us. We've chosen, we were quite courageous for some, for others we took it a bit softly, but I think the position we've took, especially for this election, was quite courageous, considering the mentality out there. But it reflects also the mentality of the people out there. So yes, nowadays we can say that we are. We're not doing like the other parties, not talking about it. We discussed. We came out with the abortion being decriminalized and also being a chance to be accessed for people who have non-viable pregnancies in cases of incest or of rape. And also you protect also the doctors who have to act on the spot when they have to choose between the life of a woman or of a dead fetus.
You don't think you're not scared you're going to lose votes this way?
I think we gained them through that.
Really? But by being a pro-choice, that's very interesting. That you think you gained votes by taking a stance in favor of decriminalizing
yes,
abortion?
Because mentality has changed, and we are there constantly in touch with the people, so we know that mentality is changing. Mm-hmm. We put the women in the center of our policy. Woman is no longer just a Tupperware container. She has her health, she has her importance for us, and that is how we tackled it.
Do you think Arnold Cassola should return to AD or ADPD, and that ADPD should perhaps now also merge with Volt, seeing as you're talking very much about the same issues?
Well, Cassola, he left on his own.
Do you want him to return though?
I mean, personally, I have no issues with Cassola. It's something which needs to be discussed with the rest of the group. It's not like for me to decide for the rest.
What about Volt?
Me. What are we going to gain with them? I admire all of them because I'm in good relationships with them too. But I don't think we're going to gain anything from them.
So, finally, you mentioned a very good point earlier, which is that AD needs to be closer to the people. It can't just be speaking to them from the media on Facebook. It needs to be on the ground.
Yes.
This is extremely important in politics. Like all politicians know this, especially in a country like Malta, where politics is very personal and people often vote for the candidates who they like.
Yes.
So, with this in mind and considering the logistical issues, because seeing as the two big parties have way more resources than ADPD does, financial and human, isn't it better to focus, in your opinion, for ADPD to focus all of its resources on targeting just a couple of local councils, at least initially, rather than going all out for the general election with candidates on all districts, spreading all your resources thin? But instead, change that strategy in that direction.
Why should we think so small? Let's think big. Okay,
Starting
starting off, yes, but I know history is against us, but why shouldn't people have a third option? It's just and limit them just to local councils. We can have candidates for the local councils, and we're working on them because we're recruiting them as we go along. But we cannot just limit ourselves to being just for the local councils. I think the country, especially for those 70,000 which didn't vote, the country deserves a third option. No matter how many laws they try to change and fix and mechanisms, etc. But I think it's time that the country, more than ever, needs a third strong voice. And that third Green Party, hopefully, is going to be that strong voice.
Sandra Gauci, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing what you get up to in the coming months, and whether you will take on the ADPD leadership.
We'll see.
Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for following us. Make sure to follow lovinmalta.com for all the latest developments, and have an evening full of lovin'.